Welcome to China Truths. In this episode, we will bring you the following stories. Goldman Sachs CEO, global investors find it difficult to move money out of China. Women's clothing return rate hits record high during Double 11. Now, let's dive into the details. It's all covered in today's China Truths. Goldman Sachs CEO, global investors find it difficult to move money out of China. Goldman Sachs chairman and CEO David Solomon stated that it is currently very difficult to transfer funds out of China, leading global investors to be reluctant to invest in the country. He made these remarks on November 19 during the annual Global Financial Leaders Investment Summit hosted by the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, HKMA. Attendees included notable figures such as Mark Rowan, CEO of Apollo Global Management, Jonathan Gray, president of Blackstone, and executives from KKR, TPG, CVC, and Carlyle. Solomon highlighted that one persistent concern among global investors is how to smoothly withdraw investments from China. They have invested significant amounts of money, but over the past 5 years, moving funds out of China has been very difficult, he said. I believe it is critical for global investors to have the ability to move capital in and out seamlessly. Solomon noted that a series of issues in China have caused global investors to adopt a wait-and-see approach to investing in the country. He added that investors are looking for improvements in Chinese consumer spending and progress in the openness of capital markets. Ted Pick, CEO of Morgan Stanley, also spoke at the same event. He echoed Solomon's concerns, adding, "Transparency is essential, and addressing deflation will take time." Jeffrey Perlman, CEO of Warburg Pincus, expressed a similar sentiment at the AVCJ Private Equity and Venture Forum in Hong Kong. Referring to Solomon's comments about the difficulty of transferring funds out of China, Perlman said his company faced significant challenges in repatriating $1 billion after an investment exit last year. "This is extremely challenging," he remarked. The lack of effective economic stimulus from Beijing, coupled with expectations of increased tariffs under the incoming U.S. President Donald Trump, has led to 5 consecutive weeks of foreign capital outflows from China's stock market. According to Bloomberg, the FTSE China 25 Index ETF, or FXI, experienced $984 million in outflows last week, marking a record high. Similarly, the CraneShares CSI China Internet ETF, or KWEB, which tracks large-cap Chinese internet companies, saw $710 million in outflows during the same period. Chinese netizens have commented that not only are ordinary citizens facing restrictions on cash withdrawals and transfers by Chinese authorities, but even Goldman Sachs is struggling to move funds. Even Wall Street's financial tycoons have now embarked on the rights protection path in China, where funds can enter but not leave, one netizen joked. Women's clothing return rate hits record high during Double 11. With mainland Chinese consumers scaling back on spending, the record-long Double 11 shopping festival concluded quietly, leaving high return rates a hot topic of discussion. Women's clothing has been hit particularly hard, with return rates reportedly reaching historic peaks. The wave of returns is ongoing, and both buyers and sellers lament the difficulties they face. Starting last year, return rates for women's clothing on e-commerce platforms in China have been steadily increasing. This year, the situation has worsened, with many industry insiders reporting the highest rates they've ever seen. Recently, the topic record high return rates for women's clothing during Double 11 trended on social media. A female store owner revealed, "We shipped 2,000 orders and got 1,500 returns." A report from Eatside Global cited the head of Chishu Women's Clothing Supply Chain, who said last year's return and refund rate for women's clothing was about 60%, but this year it has risen to 75 to 80%. One customer, who previously achieved annual sales of billions of yuan, ended up with only 20 million yuan after returns. Some merchants even reported return rates as high as 80 to 90%. Consumers expressed frustration, with one saying, "Buying 10 pieces of women's clothing and returning 9 has become the norm." Sellers, overwhelmed by the sheer number of return packages, are also feeling the strain. A Jinling Evening News report highlighted consumer complaints, with Ms. Sun sharing her experience. I bought 5 outfits during Double 11 and only kept one. The returned items either had big color differences, didn't fit, or didn't look good when worn. She noted that often, the clothes she received looked completely different from what was advertised, leaving her disappointed. On social media, complaints about the increasing difficulty of online shopping for women's clothing are widespread. Issues include inconsistent sizing, e.g., fitting into children's sizes but not standard women's sizes, color mismatches, poor quality materials, unflattering designs, and delays due to long pre-sale periods. These problems fuel dissatisfaction, pushing return rates ever higher. The Jiangsu Consumer Rights Protection Committee pointed to several factors contributing to the high return rates in the women's clothing sector, including poor quality control. Women's clothing on e-commerce platforms varies widely in quality. Sellers often fail to meet consumer expectations for aesthetics, quality, and purchasing habits. Misleading advertising. Many product photos are heavily edited with filters and angles that exaggerate the clothing's appeal. Some shops even steal photos from competitors. Lack of key information. Product pages often omit crucial details about materials and sizing, leaving consumers disappointed upon receiving their orders. E-commerce merchants are also voicing their grievances. Many complain about malicious buyers who abuse the return policy, such as wearing clothes before returning them. This behavior increases logistics costs and impacts the resale potential of returned items. A customer service representative for a women's clothing shop on Taobao remarked, "In this industry for years, I've seen return rates skyrocket recently. It's tough." According to a Meters Bonley representative, the average return rate for apparel categories has exceeded 70%, with fashion items reaching 90%. Clothes returned 3 times or more are typically scrapped. The skyrocketing return rates have disrupted the women's clothing e-commerce ecosystem. Linkshop reported that over 40 women's clothing stores have closed or ceased updates this year alone. Major retailers like Hagwahako, with 3.07 million followers, and Sunnydan, 2.74 million followers, have ceased operations. Even well-known brands have run away, such as Cheonf Kyla, which stopped shipments and refunds after luring customers with ultra-low prices. The store also owes payments to suppliers. With weakening consumer demand and market saturation, relying solely on viral products or low-price promotions is no longer viable for long-term competitiveness. A brutal elimination phase is inevitable, according to industry insiders. As return rates remain high, both consumers and sellers are left searching for solutions. Consumers lament the lack of reliable products, while merchants struggle with the financial and logistical burden of returns. The question remains, what is the path forward for the women's clothing e-commerce industry?